The Coalition called humans reckless. The Vryn called them unstable. The Korthax Empire called them demons wearing skin. But on Station Theta 9, in the outer reaches of the Helios expanse, Raya Thorn was simply called the freight hauler with the weird reflexes. She didn't mind the reputation. It kept people from asking too many questions about why a human, one of the few in this sector, chose to work the dangerous trade routes, where pirates bred like bacteria and law was a suggestion at best. The station's market district buzzed with the usual chaos. Merchants hawking contraband tech, information brokers whispering in shadowed corners, and the ever-present stench of recycled air, mixed with a dozen alien cuisines. Raya navigated through the crowd with practiced ease, her worn leather jacket concealing the plasma pistol at her hip and the combat knife strapped to her thigh. That's when she heard it, a small, frightened whimper that cut through the noise like a blade through silk. Her head snapped toward the sound. In the gap between two cargo containers, a Vryn cub, no more than 5 solar cycles old, was being dragged by his scruff. The child's silver-blue fur bristled with terror, his large amber eyes wide and pleading. The creature holding him was a Korthax raider, his scales mottled with scars and his breath reeking of fermented genroot. "Please," the cub squeaked in broken galactic common, his voice barely above a whisper. "My mother. She'll pay." The raider laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Your mother's already dead, runt. You're worth more as a slave than she was alive." Raya's blood turned to ice, then to fire. She'd seen this before. 12 years ago, on the colony world of New Sarajevo. Raiders descending on refugee camps. Children screaming. The Coalition forces arriving 3 days too late. Finding only bodies and empty cradles. She'd been one of the survivors. Barely. Her hand moved to her knife before her conscious mind registered the decision. The Korthax was already pulling out his own blade, a cruel, serrated thing designed to cause maximum pain, and bringing it toward the cub's throat. Standard raider intimidation tactic, make the merchandise compliant through terror. He never got the chance to complete the motion. Raya moved. Humans weren't the strongest species in the galaxy. They weren't the fastest. They didn't have natural armor or enhanced senses or psionic abilities. What they had was something the other races found deeply unsettling. The ability to go from zero to lethal violence in the span of a heartbeat, with no warning and no hesitation when someone they deemed innocent was threatened. The galaxy called it the human switch. That terrible moment when a human's social programming shut off, and something ancient and predatory took over. Raya closed the 15-meter distance in 2.3 seconds. The Korthax's neural processing speed was fast, 0.4 seconds faster than a human's, according to Coalition biology reports. He should have had time to react. He didn't, because Raya wasn't relying on reaction time. She was operating on something older than civilization itself. The mammalian brain's threat response system. Honed by millions of years of evolution, on a death world, where everything wanted to eat you. Her knife, a simple carbon steel blade, nothing fancy, just 20 centimeters of sharpened metal, punched through the soft tissue behind the Korthax's jaw hinge. The angle was perfect, practiced. The blade slid through the narrow gap in his skull plating and into his cranial cavity, severing the neural cluster that controlled voluntary movement. The raider's own knife stopped 3 millimeters from the cub's throat, frozen in place as his nervous system shut down. His eyes widened in shock and incomprehension. How? His expression seemed to ask. How did she move so fast? Raya twisted the blade once a mercy, really, to ensure brain death, and pulled it free. The Korthax collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. The entire encounter had taken 4 seconds. The cub Tech? She would later learn his name was stared up at her with those enormous amber eyes, his small body trembling. Around them, the market had gone silent. Dozens of aliens watched, their various sensory organs focused on the human female standing over a dead raider, her blade dripping dark ichor onto the station's deck plates. Raya crouched down, making herself smaller, less threatening. She wiped her knife clean on the raider's clothing and sheathed it before extending her empty hands toward Tech. "Hey there, little one," she said softly, switching to the Vryn dialect she'd picked up over the years. Her accent was terrible, but the effort mattered. "You're safe now. Can you tell me your name?" The cub's voice was barely a whisper. "Tech. My name is Tech. Tech. That's a strong name." She kept her movements slow, predictable. "I'm Raya. Do you have somewhere safe to go?" "I'm Raya. Do you have somewhere safe to go?" Tech's ears flattened against his skull. "My mother," the raider said. "I know, sweetheart. I know." Raya's jaw clenched. "But we're going to find out if he was lying, okay? And if he wasn't, well, we'll figure something out." A shadow fell over them. Raya's hand moved back toward her knife, but she froze when she saw the station's security chief, a grizzled Vryn veteran named Korath, standing with his arms crossed. "Human," he said, his voice a low rumble. "You just killed a sentient being on my station." Raya stood slowly, positioning herself between Korath and Tech. He was about to murder a child. Self-defense by proxy. Coalition law is clear on that. Korath's whiskers twitched the Vryn equivalent of a smile. "Indeed it is. Though most beings would have called for security, waited for proper authorities." His gaze moved to the dead raider, then to the knife at Raya's hip. "You humans have a saying." "Yes? About the speed of justice? Justice delayed is justice denied," Raya quoted. Yes." Korath knelt beside Tech, his large hands gentle as he examined the cub for injuries. "This is Counselor Vryn's grandson. She's been searching for him for 3 hours." The raiders hit their transport convoy just outside the station. He looked up at Raya, something like respect in his ancient eyes. "You may have just prevented a diplomatic incident. Or started one, depending on how certain parties view the death of a Korthax national." Raya shrugged. "Let them complain. If the Korthax Empire wants to defend child slavers, they can explain that to the Coalition Council." Korath's whiskers twitched again. He stood, lifting Tech with practiced ease. The cub immediately buried his face in the security chief's shoulder, small body still shaking. "Raya Thorn," Korath said formally. "On behalf of House Vryn and the Vryn Collective, you have my gratitude. And my warning word of this will spread. Other raiders will know what you did here today." "Good," Raya said simply. "Maybe they'll think twice next time." Korath shook his head slowly. "That's not how raiders think. Human. They'll see you as a threat. A challenge." Raya's smile was cold and sharp. "Then they can get in line with all the others who've underestimated my species." As Korath carried Tech away toward the medical bay, the crowd began to disperse, conversations resuming in hushed tones. Raya stood alone in the market, a small human woman surrounded by beings twice her size, and none of them met her eyes. Because they'd all seen it. That terrible human moment when civilization's veneer cracked and something older looked out. That instant of perfect, terrifying clarity, when a human decided that someone needed to die, and made it happen with neither hesitation nor remorse. The galaxy called humans reckless, unstable, demons wearing skin. They weren't wrong, but they also weren't completely right, because the same instinct that made humans dangerous to their enemies also made them absolutely lethal in defense of the innocent. Evolution had given them the capacity for extreme violence, yes, but also for extreme compassion. And when those two forces aligned, when a human decided that something was worth protecting, well, the knife through the raider's skull was answer enough.